So who are you voting for this election? You voting for big coal or big coal? Nowhere does the differences between the two corporate pro-war candidates matter less than on the issue of big coal. Nowhere else is the clusterfuck of opinions, facts, and political will as completely nonsensical than on this issue. Are you ready to go on a ride that'll split your head in two? Okay, so Mitt Romney in 2003 used to tout climate change and pollution as being reasons to close coal-fired plants in Massachusetts, saying, and I quote, "I will not create jobs that kill people, and that plant kills people." And he was right. Research done by the Clean Air Task Force suggests that 20 people die every year from coal-fired plants in Salem, Massachusetts, due to the carcinogenic particulates in that particular plant's emissions. Now, what's surprising here is not that Mitt Romney's stance on coal in 2003 is actually greener than Obama's. It's that the Obama campaign is now using these statements by Mitt Romney to attack Mitt Romney for not being pro-coal enough. That's right. Right now, Obama is running to the right of Mitt Romney on the issue of burning coal and giving people cancer. Which, of course, isn't even true because Mitt Romney has changed his stance on the issue. He's reversed his stance on climate change and pollution and giving people cancer. He's now a climate change denier, which is insane. Even the Koch brothers, who are largely funding his campaign, don't deny climate change. At the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History in Washington, D.C., there is a Koch brother funded exhibit that talks about human evolution, overpopulation, and human-caused climate change. So now that's sort of the one place where Obama and Romney now differ, because Obama says that human-caused climate change is an issue, and back in 2008 he vowed to cut carbon emissions by 80% by 2050. Except he hasn't actually done anything to back that up with action, and in fact he's been fighting the EPA to try to prevent them from doing their job. And sure, there was like Solyndra, but corporate giveaways in the private sector is not exactly the same as the Green New Deal shit that Jill Stein is talking about in the Green Party. And the Green New Deal is a program that the Green Party's been pushing since 2004, where the government steps in and directly create subsidies to consumers to install the things that will transition us to renewable energy, installing solar panels, installing micronodal wind array, which then creates the demand that the private sector is waiting for. And in fact, not only has Obama not done anything to back up that, cutting carbon emissions 80% by 2050, he hasn't done anything to back that up with action. Not only that, he's done the exact opposite. Obama was actively pushing to relax restrictions on offshore drilling while the Deepwater Horizon was exploding and sinking to the bottom of the ocean, sending millions of gallons of crude oil to the surface of the Gulf of Mexico. And Obama has currently approved deepwater drilling in the Arctic. So apparently Obama has learned absolutely nothing from the oil spill disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the Obama administration's EPA, it's trying to do its job, and it's actually coming up against a fight from President Obama. Obama has stifled their efforts when it comes to regulating ozone, which they're legally required to do by the Clean Air Act. But then the fact that the EPA is trying to do its job at all is the reason why coal companies are so pissed at Obama. So the coal companies are now funneling money to Romney, the guy who in 2003 said that he wanted to shut down coal plants because they were killing people and giving people cancer, because it polluted the air and emitted greenhouse gas emissions. Now, it's not that the EPA is just trying to secretly do its job while Obama is pretending to be pro-coal. There are very few political appointments in the EPA, but most of the people who work at the EPA are the same people who worked there under Bush, who worked under Clinton, who worked under George W. Bush, who work there now, and will work there under the next president, no matter who that is. In fact, even during George W. Bush's 8 years as president, when the political appointments at the EPA were trying to prevent those hired staff who were there all the time from doing their job, a number of court orders were filed, which pointed out that the EPA is legally bound to enforce the regulations that are before it. Because, that's the law. And coal companies are claiming that because these regulations are being enforced, that it's making it impossible for coal companies to be profitable, which is also bullshit. Actually, public opinion polling shows that coal is widely loathed by the American populace for being filthy, for blowing up mountaintops, for covering entire towns in cancerous coal ash slurry in places like West Virginia and the Tennessee Valley. And just like peak oil, we are also now hitting peak coal. Coal isn't exactly cheap to start with. It costs a lot to extract it. It only briefly became affordable because oil became so much more expensive. But now with fracking, methane gas has become incredibly cheap, which makes coal more expensive by comparison. While regulations actually have very little to do with the price of coal, despite the fact that Obama is actually trying to stifle the EPA's enforcement of those regulations, the coal companies are still blaming Obama for their inability to turn a profit, which ironically has caused Obama to act even more supportive of the coal industry than he already is. And not only that, but he's continued to be extremely supportive of tapping strategic oil reserves in order to drop the price of gasoline. Now, in 2012, Obama has taken on the slogan of Sarah Palin, "Drill, baby, drill," which is hilarious to me as a Green, because now the Democrats are being put in the awkward position of supporting a position that they were arguing back in 2008 was total bullshit, which it is. Back in 2008, when Sarah Palin was all drill, baby, drill, Democrats pointed out over and over again that these strategic reserves only hold a few months' worth of oil at our current rate of demand, and even still it would be years from the time that oil is pulled out of the ground until it gets to the market to actually affect the price of gasoline. And it would hardly knock a penny off the price of a gallon. Well, it would if the laws of supply and demand had anything at all to do with the price of gasoline, which is largely driven up and down by short selling and futures and derivatives on Wall Street, and actually very little to do with the laws of supply and demand, or the cost of extraction. So what about that coal plant that Romney was saying should be closed down because it was killing people and giving them cancer? Dominion Energy announced that the coal-fired plant in Salem Harbor will be closed in 2015. Dominion Energy blames the EPA for enforcing the regulations which the EPA is bound to do by law, saying the cost of fixing the power plant, the cost of turning this power plant into a little bit less of a cancer factory, was just too much for them to bear. Which is ironic because that regulation was actually canned by Obama, who in rhetoric is an enemy of coal, but in practice is actually their friend. Now Mitt Romney, who today in rhetoric is Big Coal's friend, got what he wanted back in 2003, which is to shut down the power plant. Back when he decided that he gave a shit about people dying of cancer, which he apparently doesn't anymore. And Obama is the one taking the blame, or conversely, I guess, the credit, even though he doesn't deserve it at all. Ironically, because when it comes to the issue of coal, Obama, in practice, is just as bad as Romney is claiming to be, which is also as bad as the coal industry seems to think Romney actually is. And maybe Mr. Etch-a-Sketch really is now a true believer. Maybe he really is now as bad as he says, which is to say just as bad as Obama has been and continues to be. So that's a lot of confusing shit. And stuff like this is the reason why people hate politics. One side cheers blindly for their team while ignoring the facts, while in practice both teams end up being the same when it comes to policy, and differ only in rhetoric. However, there's a clear choice that is not being talked about much this election cycle. I'm voting for Green Party candidate Jill Stein. She supports a Green New Deal and a rapid emergency basis program to turn our war economy into a clean energy economy. Less coal, less oil, less petrochemicals, more wind, more solar, more energy efficiency, and more jobs created directly by the government in doing so. This video is largely based on an article written in Grist magazine by Phillip Bump, which you can read if you follow the link in the video description. Right now I'm running for office full-time, so I don't have any time to even have a part-time job. I'm still trying to make time to do these videos, and there's a small group of awesome people who are still donating on a monthly basis to support my work here on YouTube and in the real world, but it's not enough to make ends meet. If you'd like to help out, please sign up to be a monthly sustainer over at punkpatriot.com. Even just $1 a month is incredibly helpful and very much appreciated. Thank you. To life, liberty, and pursuit of a less fucked up government.